Bitcoin still has a long way to go down at this point in time. And I think the major reason why is mainly because a lot of the things that people said about Bitcoin are kind of contrary to how Bitcoin actually operates. For instance, we are in a very high inflation environment right now, around 8% in the US, and yet Bitcoin has not done what people said. They said it would go to the moon when inflation is there, because you don't want to have your money in the dollar, you want to have it in Bitcoin. Wrong. It hasn't worked out that way. It actually has gone down, and when you think about it, it kind of makes sense why Bitcoin goes down in a high inflationary environment. For one thing, if people are paying so much money for gas, apartments, housing, trips, everything has gone up, that means that there's less money, discretionary money, to put into Bitcoin, because it basically is money that people have when they have leftover money. But nowadays there's so many people racking up bills and credit card debt and all that stuff, so they don't really have money at the moment to dump into Bitcoin. So it's just something that's interesting to keep in mind. Another thing that I've noticed is, and this is a very big problem with Bitcoin, is that almost half of the people who are currently invested in Bitcoin are underwater. And what that means is that as Bitcoin goes down, these people are actually going to start getting more scared, and they're going to actually consider selling at some point, or they might be forced to sell if they have margin calls and stuff like that. So the problem with Bitcoin is that, unlike stocks, a lot of people bought earlier, way earlier. I think that you're getting very close to 50% losing money under Bitcoin. That's going to be a huge problem, because these are weak hands. They're going to want to sell as it goes down, because they're going to get freaked out and they're going to be selling, and I think that's going to be a lot of selling pressure for Bitcoin. And in terms of institutions, I don't think they're a buyer at this point, because they have other problems that they're trying to consider. Their stocks and bonds and everything are going down at the moment, so they're not really quite interested in buying a risky asset at the moment. So you don't really have institutions that want to get into Bitcoin just yet. Now there's a possibility that they would at a later date, but I don't see any reason why institutions would be interested in Bitcoin at the moment. Another big risk that I see in Bitcoin is, you see the president of El Salvador, then you have the CEO of MicroStrategy or whatever the company is, and these people bought a lot of Bitcoin, and some of it was bought on debt. And while it's true they claim they have no interest in selling and they have a strategy to avoid being liquidated, the problem is that there is always that risk. And since everybody knows kind of what their uncle point is, or when they will start to get scared, I have a feeling it may eventually reach that point, just because the market kind of knows there's a problem there, and they have a potential of buying Bitcoin cheap if they can actually encourage that fear point or forced selling point. So that's always a big risk with owning this, with it going down, and you're starting to see that it may have a lot of forced selling. The other issue is, this is a terrible time for Bitcoin, because do you want to buy something on an exchange when you're seeing that there's so many problems or flaws in some of these exchanges? Some of these exchanges are not even letting you take the money out of these exchanges, and that's really a sign that there's severe stress in the crypto markets. There's something really fundamentally quite wrong about what's going on at the moment. That's not really a very bullish environment when you're starting to see that, sorry, we ran out of money and we are going to close on the exchange, and we're not going to let you withdraw your own money for whatever reason. And I think right now people are going to be dispirited by crypto. Then there also may be some fear about possible regulations or new laws that take into effect. And so when you get a lot of uncertainty, which we have right now, we have a lot of uncertainty about crypto and the regulations because of all these problems. I think that causes even less demand for buying, because for one thing, they don't want their money being stuck, and secondly, they don't know what kind of laws are going to be implemented in the near future either. And as we've seen, crypto started tanking when the Federal Reserve just talked about raising rates. Not even when they actually raised rates, but just when they kind of hinted that they're going to be raising rates to get rid of the transitory inflation. And as the Federal Reserve talks more hawkish and shows that they're going to fight inflation, it kind of is almost like their goal is to crash equity markets, housing and Bitcoin, all these kinds of things, that it went up a lot. So there's really no reason at the moment to buy these things, because it looks like the Federal Reserve is fighting against you, is really trying to push these things down on purpose. And so there's really no rush to buy in at the moment. Sure, you're going to get moments where Bitcoin goes up 10 to 20% in a few days, but then it will tend to go down. That's been the history of Bitcoin during bear markets. And then finally, the truth of the matter is that when Bitcoin goes down, oftentimes it will go down 94%. And I actually just think that you really are pushing it if you think you can call the bottom on this, just because you'll sometimes see that it stays at a certain price for quite some time, like 30,000. I remember Graham or some of these people on YouTube, they were like, oh, it looks like it's pretty strong at 30. It looks like that's almost like the floor. And then you get 20, and then they're saying the same thing about 20. They're saying, oh, you know, 20 is looking kind of strong at 20. But the truth is, it's kind of the same people will be saying this when it reaches 10. And so I say we got to hold off on these risky assets. There's no reason to buy at the moment. The Federal Reserve is trying to push them down, so let's listen to the Fed for once. Anyway, smash the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.